Hey you guys, thanks for tuning in. TC McCarthy here. Today we're going to cover a subject that basically is something that relates not to my current book, but to one I published back in 2011-2012, and that is the concept of the subterrene vehicle. A vehicle that's basically fusion powered and can tunnel its way through solid rock using the power of a fusion reactor. Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is TC McCarthy, the most handsome and entertaining science fiction author on video. As I said in the preview, we are going to be talking about the subterrene, but before we get to that, please pre-order my book. I did a video here, why it's important to pre-order, and I'm not going to say anything further. The subterrene vehicle, what is it? Why do I care? Well, I wrote a book, a series of books, starting back in 2011, with the first book, Germline, where human forces are at war over scarce resources, and combat in the basically area or space above ground is so ferocious and so deadly that the only safe place, underground. In fact, in this case, several kilometers underground. And it's interesting because I was saying this back in 2011, 2012, looking at the current conflict that we were all observing, conflicts around the world. And so I speculated that we're going to reach a time where everybody's going to be fighting underground. Now, fast forward to this year, the year before, the director of DIA, Air Force, several other researchers within the DoD have come to the same conclusion I did, but several years later. So do I get credit for getting it early? Not in your life. I've tried to reach out to those people and get a chance to go and give a talk at the Pentagon, at Defense Intelligence Agency, and so far I haven't heard anything, but we'll keep trying. Now, what is a subterrene? A subterrene is basically, before I get into a subterrene, today when we want to do fast tunneling projects like under Boston, or if you're doing a subway or whatever, they have these kind of worm-like vehicles. They're actually big cylinders, and on the front you get this rotating wheel with grinding teeth on the front, and they chew through rock and dirt, and then all of what's called the spoil, which is basically the chewed up rock and dirt, gets pulled out the back and then ramped up somewhere where it gets dumped into a massive pile. That's the way we do it today, and it's very slow and time-consuming. And so for researchers back in the 70s, they had this idea, some crazy people, I think they were from the national labs, had this crazy idea of what if we put a fusion reactor to power one of these things instead, and instead of having a rotating disc with grinding teeth, what if we put some probes that basically stuck out and would be the temperature of a star and poke into the rock, melt their way through, and then a full kind of plate would come in contact with the rock, and then at that point, what happens when you heat things? They expand, and through that expansion, you would get the fracturing of the rock along with a melting along the edges that would create a glass tunnel. In fact, if you were to use this going through sand or dirt, it would be even better because there you wouldn't have to fracture. You would just create molten glass as you push your way through those materials, and there would be some structural support already in place as this thing drove its way through the ground. Now, is it fast? No, it's incredibly slow. I can't remember the speeds, but it's about equivalent to what we use today. And you still have to worry about getting the spoil out, because if you're fracturing this stuff, even if you're melting it, it's not all going to basically be wind up on the walls. Some of it is going to have to go underneath and have to be shuttled out the back and dumped into piles. But the concept was cool. I used that in my book to basically say, you know, World War I and trench warfare would be very, you know, if I could write a science fiction book that reflected those horrors, because I knew they used tunneling back then. So I did some research to kind of look at what would war look like in the not so distant future if we had to fight underground over mineral resources. And I stumbled across this subterrene, and I built an entire book, an entire series around that concept, underground warfare. Another cool feature of the subterrene vehicle is, you know, if you go on Wikipedia, there's a couple of like, they feel like they have to do pros and cons or something, and they mention as a con that you still have to get rid of all the dirt and spoil that comes off these things. So what? That's not a con. That is not a con. The other thing they talk about is it takes a lot of energy. It's fusion. It is fusion. It uses hydrogen, possibly one of the most common elements on the face of the earth. It kills me when people say stuff like that, and it's just so stupid. But anyway, one of the cool things that you can use a subterrene for is because it's powered by fusion reactor. What do we know from earlier videos that you get when you have a fusion reactor? Go ahead and check out this video. Pew! What do you get? Plasma. And what's nice about plasma? It's a weapon. So as the subterrene is heading towards its target in my book Germline, when it breaks into an enemy tunnel, it automatically vents plasma on either side so that it basically fries and cooks enemy soldiers that are in the area. Then it keeps going, and behind it come your troops, come friendly troops, crashing into basically the enemy front lines, which are in these tunnels, right? And then combat ensues. So it's a very dark, very scary, very, very, very dangerous proposition. As a counter to the subterrene, you're going to have sonic. It's basically like an acoustic kind of listening post that can triangulate where the subterrene is, how fast it's moving, and where it's most likely going to break in. So it becomes this very almost like driving a submarine kind of warfare, but combined with the added horror of troops, of infantry trying to take and hold, yards worth of territory at a time. Very World War I-esque. At least that's what I was going for. So check it out if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much for doing that. That's all I've got for this video. It's a very cool concept, but very short topic. And again, buy my book in July, coming out July 2nd. It's called Tyger Burning from Bain Books. End transmission. Hey, TC McCarthy here, the most eclectic and entertaining science fiction author on YouTube, maybe even the internet. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. As usual, buy my books. I've got a new one coming out in July, and I'll have a giveaway coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Appreciate you subscribing to my channel, and please, 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 please don't forget to click that little bell icon so that whenever I upload new content, you get notified. Thanks again. See you soon.